This is Ryan, and I welcome you back to episode 15 of the Reverse Song Project Podcast, a place where the veil thins and the voices of a heavenly dimension speak through the music you thought you knew. If you're hearing some or even part of what I've captioned, you've already stepped into a reality most people never thought possible. What unfolds here is real, and it carries unimaginable weight. You are among the first to witness authentic and extreme communication from beyond our world. Those who've journeyed with me for a while understand that the angelic voices woven into these reverse songs cannot be fabricated, not by human hands nor by the most advanced AI on Earth. And after more than 20 years devoted to this kind of work, the truth of that becomes even clearer. I don't deny the possibility that one day someone may create an advanced AI program, perhaps by using my translations and the principles behind angelic voice phenomena, that can interpret these messages automatically. Could such a thing emerge in my lifetime? Perhaps. And if my reverse language algorithms become the foundation for understanding reverse language and something that helps the world, I welcome it. All I ask is that they mention me as the founder and perhaps the first that tapped into the frequency used by the angels, who speak clearly in these songs. This first song by Taylor, called Willow, was released in December of 2020. Even for the most die-hard skeptics, this one will be hard to ignore. Much of it sounds like it is being sung in forward mode, and the reverse lyrics deserve to be reviewed before you hear the actual reversal yourself, and I will try to go over them as quickly as I can. So these are the reverse lyrics. The events that they've had from the angels is true to your faith. May one study the events that are offered, composed of steps in heaven. In one setting we want 7, and Ryan wants the day they announce they'll listen to a plan. If you lose your faith, your loss is more evident when we get tears from a heavenly man. Honestly, it's perfectly obvious how you all forget our love is living when I sing this with you. Heaven said they'll come if they have this proof you offer them. Our love is forever waiting, and all who get to it shall never be abandoned. As 7 is picked, they'll have this news, you're all forgiven. Our love lives forever. When I sing this truth alone, our work will resist this evil, as there's no limit on this safe sea of passion that won't assist evil. Spiritually, we ensure the evil that's hidden in emotion are on good pathways, streaming on this here field of energy man in heaven wants them to have. Or will you expect heaven alone to fail when I've been asking as politely like this? When will you accept heaven you will know as a friend? When they announce that they are picked, they have this news. You won't forget it. Our love is ever waiting ones who would get tears as they look to heaven. As that 7 are picked, they have this news. You won't forget. Our love peers through your veil and all the serious risk is over. When your speech is out of harm's way, you'll have many events where we will surely help with focus in a new religion. And Ryan is serious how this model is. Ryan, will you expect action in all the words you feel? Ryan wants to see if our picks will have peace too. You're forgiven for all the years where you even wouldn't accept this solution only. We hoped his apprehension would resolve. You see, if there were not dilemmas, no one would know about it. The angels know what's up with the free and legal words like this reverse can offer. We are now amid your visionaries who work on that. So that brings us to the end of the reverse lyrics. Before we listen to the full reversal, there's one more point worth touching on. In the reverse track, you'll hear them mention the 7. This song, and others, refer to them as the first visionaries who took this seriously and began finding ways to bring it forward into the world. I believe we've already surpassed that number, perhaps even doubled or tripled it, which means we're on a path that's growing exponentially. So if you step into this reality now, or in the near future, you can still be among the first in the world to become one of God's new messengers. Now let's hear this remarkably clear reversal. This next reversal from Taylor Swift's Anti-Hero, the Angels open up about their ongoing effort to inspire a better world. This one is especially layered. It begins with a skit set at a funeral where a family is speaking, and within that scene the Angels weave in a surprising amount of insight, some of it symbolic, some of it direct, all of it compelling. As the reversal continues, the Angels describe how Earth could move closer to a state of paradise if humanity allowed itself to be guided toward peace. They speak about the need for security, the importance of reducing conflict, and even reference modern political movements in passing. Their message is consistent: hatred must be set aside, and humanity has to learn from the lessons of its past. They also talk about how those who genuinely try to follow angelic guidance draw nearer to God, and how doing so can help them overcome the fears that cloud their perception. At one point, it sounds as though a visionary wonders whether they're caught in an illusion that's feeding their anxiety. The angelic response emphasizes peace, hope, and trust in God. Music itself becomes part of the message. How love expressed through music can help transform the world. The Angels also speak about God's desire for actions that resist destruction rather than accelerate it, and they touch on prophecy, explaining that their work begins with prophecies of survival, not doom. There's even commentary on how certain religious movements can unintentionally become complacent toward war, and that's only part of what's embedded in this reversal. There's a lot here for listeners to unpack. So let's hear this reversal in its reverse form now.
Oh, close through it. And we love your snuff because I better cook you know what one you're not for your career should have you
This next song is a new one from Taylor Swift called Lavender Haze. For me, Taylor has one of the most angelic voices in reverse that I know. Even though this music video is provocative at times, it shows how God and the angels give us support and our right to make choices when it comes to our personal beliefs and how we can use our gifts to bring the message of love to others. The final song today is The Who's Joined Together from 1972. One of the reasons I wanted to feature this song again was because there were a couple of spots that I made corrections. Another was because there's an amazing message in reverse that clearly talks about different kinds of religious evil. So if you are an evangelistic Christian, you may not appreciate this one so much. However, before you call this blasphemy, you may want to watch the new documentary from Hulu called God Forbid. It's about Jerry Falwell Jr.'s downfall, and it covers almost all the areas the angels mentioned in this reverse song. You might be wondering why I suddenly shifted to a song by The Who, especially when it sits so far outside the tone of the Taylor Swift reversals we've been exploring. There's a reason, and it isn't random. The angelic messages have been remarkably consistent across every reversal I've worked with, not just in Taylor's music, but in countless songs from completely different artists and eras. The pattern keeps repeating, a warning about the state of modern Christianity. Not all of it, but enough that the trend is impossible to ignore. What the angels keep pointing to is a kind of spiritual unraveling. Many churches have drifted from their original purpose. Some have become more focused on donations than devotion. Pastors and ministers often align themselves with the people who fund them, rather than the people who need them. Congregations that once opened their doors to the stranger now turn away immigrants, whether they arrive legally or not. Scripture is sometimes used to justify actions that at their core contradict the compassion and justice the Bible was meant to teach. Sermons increasingly echo political talking points instead of spiritual truth, and loyalty to a single party is treated as if it were loyalty to God himself. And in the middle of all this, the values that once defined the faith, truth, compassion, humility, love, are fading. This is why the Ho appears here, because the angels aren't just speaking through one artist or one genre. They're speaking through everything, trying to show us that something sacred is slipping and that we need to pay attention before the distortion becomes permanent. When we talk about political identity in the United States today, one of the most striking patterns is the coalition that is formed around Donald Trump and the modern Republican Party. This coalition includes several major groups, parts of the oil and gas industry, certain agricultural sectors like cattle ranchers, and a large portion of white evangelical Christians. Each of these groups has its own reasons for aligning with Trump, and understanding those reasons helps us understand the deeper cultural forces at play. I'll break them down into several whys. Why the oil industry supports him. Many leaders in the oil and gas sector have supported Trump because his policies promise deregulation, expanded drilling, and a rollback of environmental restrictions. These policies directly benefit fossil fuel companies financially, so their support is largely strategic and economic. This isn't surprising. Industries often support candidates who protect their bottom line. Why many cattle ranchers supported him. Cattle ranchers historically leaned toward Trump as well, often because of broader conservative cultural identity and promises of rural economic support. But even here, the relationship has been complicated. Some ranchers have become frustrated by policies that increase beef imports and lowered domestic prices. Their support is real, but it's not unconditional. Why many white evangelical Christians support him. This is the most complex and emotionally charged part of the coalition. Many white evangelical Christians have supported Trump because they believe he protects certain moral or cultural priorities, issues like abortion, religious liberty, and the appointment of conservative judges. Some feel he represents a defense against cultural change they see as threatening. Others believe he is a flawed vessel being used for a divine purpose. But here's where things get difficult, and where this support collides with core Christian teachings. When you compare the teachings of Jesus with the tone, behavior, and political culture surrounding Trump, the tension becomes impossible to ignore. Christianity, at its core, emphasizes humility, compassion, truthfulness, care for the poor, and love for one's enemies. Yet the political culture around Trump often elevates confrontation over compassion, power over humility, loyalty over truth, fear over faith, division over reconciliation. This isn't about whether someone should vote Republican or Democrat. It's about the danger of allowing political identity to override spiritual identity. When Christians begin to define their faith through the lens of a political figure, any political figure, the faith itself becomes distorted. It becomes a tool instead of a truth, a weapon instead of a witness. How political loyalty becomes a cancer in religion. When a religious community ties itself too tightly to a political movement, several things happen. 1. The gospel becomes secondary. Political talking points start replacing spiritual teachings. Scripture becomes a justification tool instead of a guide. 2. Outsiders feel pushed away. People who don't share the political identity feel unwelcome, even if they share the faith. 3. Leaders become gatekeepers of ideology instead of shepherds of souls. Pastors feel pressure to preach politics instead of spiritual growth. 4. Criticism becomes impossible. If a political figure becomes God's chosen, then questioning them feels like questioning God, and that's when corruption thrives. 5. The faith becomes vulnerable to manipulation. Political actors on any side can exploit religious identity to gain power. This is what I mean when I say political allegiance can become a cancer in religion. It grows quietly, spreads quickly, and replaces healthy spiritual tissue with something rigid, reactive, and ultimately destructive. This is a callback to authentic faith. Christianity has survived for 2,000 years because it is bigger than any empire, any nation, and certainly any political party. When Christians anchor themselves in the teachings of Jesus rather than the rhetoric of politicians, the faith becomes a force for healing instead of division. The goal isn't to tell people who to vote for. The goal is to remind people who they are and who they follow. What about Canada and the rest of the world? Whenever political identity becomes fused with spiritual identity, the faith begins to decay from the inside. It doesn't matter which country it happens in. The effect is the same. The gospel becomes secondary. Compassion becomes conditional. Truth becomes negotiable. And the voice of God becomes harder to hear beneath the noise. This is why the angels speak through so many songs, across so many genres, from so many countries. They're not warning us about politics. They're warning us about the spiritual cost of letting politics define the faith. Canada still has a choice. The drift is real, but it's not irreversible. Canada still has a strong foundation of multicultural compassion, social responsibility, and quiet humility, values that align far more closely with the teachings of Jesus than with any political agenda. The angels seem to be reminding us that the danger isn't in choosing a party. The danger is in forgetting the purpose of the faith itself. When Christians in Canada return to the original tone, the tone of love, truth, and welcome, the distortion clears, the signal strengthens, and the sanctuary becomes a sanctuary again. Believe it or not, even Victor, my very first budgie, the one who set me on this entire path more than 20 years ago, foresaw something like this long before any of us could see it taking shape. It was only one of many predictions he made that have since come to pass, and with each passing year, his messages become clearer, sharper, almost prophetic in hindsight. So, as we close out this episode, it feels right to return to where it all began, to honor the messenger who first opened this doorway. I want to feature one of Victor's reversals, a piece that speaks directly to the themes we've explored today. It's called Politics and War.
Somebody taught what first react about, and I start ideas about the sloppy board, fussy world, parsing it down by the elect, Rachel Bush, better be 95 blurb, first timing, the full 96 back to back. That's a club, the left beat, the top connects, the tap, and the F, the tap, I still read that, upstep, but I read up so, the plus time to, what is it that like actual, it's a question I read up right, that's up exactly, some people are stubborn, would they not right, don't say that I got yours, not the clubbing, not the Bush, people, or some of the people are asleep, but I don't, doesn't matter what she's done. They're going to back and he's down and Victor's like, they're trying to put it in the body do it. That's like better than a review that's happened, body back, and bite for a near, but say back, sad, body, tell it, believe the body, don't need all, so let's let the people. I said, right, that's not me, that's not me, what is God notice? What is wrong? People like school, what is wrong? What is wrong? No, not do it, it's wrong. I knew it's not tough, they could be a thing. This kid on it, comes in with the guitar, Victor, pretty blood, bloody, comes in, come in. Think there's a good melody, think the birthday, but think there's a budgie left budgie crop. First two what you give, I love cheese, carrots. You like Spartacus, said you watch TV, the clown up or something. Maybe he asked me drop like it talks on that club. Was only Roger correcting to pass retard, then the UW does stop. He talked to people to spell out, coming, I think that night was Friday, I think he asked out, I that 40 I start ideas about the sloppy word fussy world person and down by the electric push better be magnified blur for some timing the full 96 better than back. That's a club that left me those abroad. The talk connects the happened yes. Then that I still read that upstairs directly got so the plus time to when he said that lecture I told get the question I really come free. That up is exactly some people are stored within that frame. Don't see that appears that clutting that needs to push people for something beer blurs. But not there's a many budgies that the columns of bed and his down and victors and the fire budget and the money doing. That's like better than a million that's happened. Bobby bed and bite fun near the same box out down in the little believe the body dumping all there. So what's with like the people? There's a break. That's not enough. That's not enough. Oh, thank you. What is going on? This when he might have school called when squad when no not doing the squad and you is the tough because they could be a thing. This kid on it comes in with the guitar. Victor, pretty blood, bloody. Comes in, come in. Think there's a good melody. Think the birdie, but think there's a buddy left budgie crop. First two country thing. I like cheese, carrots. And that's part that said they watch TV, the climb up or something. And there, he has school trouble like it tough, so I'm not club. Was a late writer, collecting to pass retime, then the UW, that's the happily talk to people to stuff. Coming, I think that night was Friday. I think he has up. I met 40 guys. They got their bad like case, but I feel like what's about night the phone back. He has up. When you say night, rural people are like the fire base, a friendly person, then you want to sell it. The people can score. When I'm walking to school, walking home, pictures why when a stupid don't the key. That's a time, that thing bad, that's the bad thing bad. I not because when I think you might score. Petaros, the lectures cannot take okay. The time the people like I stop talking simple. What you play, then I'm gonna get squatted. Because I'm like that is person bird. The time just in a supply. But I started in a system like I'm studying like we are. That's good body, great fry. What people I stop their blood single troubling. And you know, like what big task for something but yeah.
So that brings us to the end of this presentation. I hope you enjoyed revisiting Victor, the first parrot in the world to speak in true conversational language and the one who opened the doorway to the Spirit of God and the angels for me over 20 years ago. His voice was the beginning of everything you hear in this series, and it still guides the work we're doing today. In my next presentation, I'll be diving into some Dua Lipa reversals, and I've got a few surprises lined up that I think you'll really appreciate. If you're enjoying this journey, please give the podcast a like or subscribe. It helps more people discover these messages and join us on the path. Thanks for being here, and I look forward to having you with me again soon.